If you're new to cars, it shouldn't do that.
I'm in the process of getting ready for this summer, and that means replacing my driveway and getting this ready. 1993 Ford Thunderbird SuperCoupe. So today I'm going to show you how we replace the supercharger snout bearings and the suspension on this legendary Ford touring car.
Look at that bushing.
This SuperCoupe is America's darling. 6 cylinders, forced induction, disc brakes front and rear, double wishbone independent suspension front and rear, and a 5-speed manual. Why does my wife want a piece of junk car like this?
You're making me look like an idiot.
She had a 2001 Mazda Miata and she decided, well, it wasn't quite as fast as she liked. So we discussed the options of turbocharging.
I didn't turbo your car.
And we decided to sell it. By the end of this video, you're gonna see this old girl spread her wings and boost her way down the street in preparation for being my wife's awesome, cool, American muscle daily driver. All right, so we've got the supercharger rebuild kit ordered. We gotta wait on that. It's gonna be here probably 5 days-ish from now. So we're gonna put the supercharger stuff to the side, and then we can jump into some of the other stuff that I've been wanting to do, and that is
These ball joints right there. Absolutely destroyed.
We're gonna get the wheels off here. I think we'll just do like one corner at a time, just for sake of being simple. Let's pop these tires off, then we can do the supercharger stuff when it gets here.
Well, it's colder here than anyone told me the South could get, and I took to staying up real late and smoking cigarettes. The cheap tobacco burns the way that bridge between us did, and I'm left looking at the glowing end.
Yeah, these are acrylic lock nuts, which means they have a small piece of plastic on there that actually molds to it. So
To be running home, 'cause I'm longing tonight to be somewhere across that great divide. I wish I could take the hands of time and turn.
that's what was making that engine noise up there.
A previous owner had put a new bolt on this strut arm, and that new bolt was not the right thread pattern. It damaged the threads and it was really, really sticky. You'll see more about this later. I didn't know right now though.
So am I too far gone to be running home? 'Cause I'm longing tonight to be somewhere.
All right, so we're using this very long 18mm wrench, and you can see that it's like angled there, so we have to turn it like that and then flip it over to grab it and turn it again, which is a big pain in the butt. Breaking this loose was crazy, but I don't see any way to do this without taking the master cylinder out, and I really don't want to do that because then I have to bleed brakes and all that, and I honestly really dislike doing that. So I guess I'd rather struggle than struggle, you know?
Across that great divide.
Right here we've got the lower ball joint, and it's press fit into this knuckle right here. I've gone ahead and removed this guy, so it's just finger tight, but we're leaving it on there so it doesn't drop down and get crazy. But we gotta hammer this, and that should pop that ball joint loose, and we'll see how bad it is, because oh, yep, my finger's inside of it. Okay, cool. All right, so we're using a pickle fork. You can see it going in there, and then we're just gonna hammer it until it breaks this loose. Typically, you can just bang on the spindle right there and it'll bust loose, but this one's pretty in there, so. Hey! So if you guys have ever, you know, you push a shopping cart in the store and then the wheel falls behind, it's like that. That's because the caster is off, and the caster is the axis on which the wheel pivots. So if this is your control arm, we've got to compare these two. If this was inverse and it was actually like this, you'd have the wheel actually leaning forward, so you'd have probably plus like 3 degrees of caster or something, and you need negative caster. So when you put this in, you want to make sure that it goes in and it lines up the same way, because if you're leaning this guy backwards, that's negative caster, well, positive caster, I guess, technically. But yeah, if you have negative caster, it runs forward, and then that'll make the wheel just kind of flop around in the wind. It's always nice to reuse your factory hardware. Factory hardware is always going to be a better quality than the aftermarket stuff. So we'll just shove this guy through here, this guy through here, put on our nut. Again, factory hardware, this one has this little arm on there, so when it goes through, it can't turn, and you don't have to worry about this guy spinning on the inside. So if you're double wrenching later, make life easy. And then this other guy, and then we just bring her in here, line the bushing up to the hole, and run her through. There we go. Oh yeah, it's got that weight of the shock on it there. So this is an alignment bolt, so when you turn this in there, it's moving the control arm, right, which is on here, moving the control arm in and out. Yeah, you can kind of control some of your camber gain and things like that. A lot of tuning available in a car like this. Absolutely crazy, you'd never think of it in a Ford Thunderbird, you know, but this car actually has a lot of stuff in it, so nice. Okay. So this is our lower control arm and our shock. Just kind of fell out here, but you can see why we have to do this. Look at that bushing. Absolutely destroyed. We've got the lower control arm on our torsion rod here. These bushings are really hard to get off back here if they're like press fit or corroded on. I just cut as much as I could, burned the rest of it, and this guy will press the bushing back in place as I go in there. I put the alignment bolt in, get that bad girl in place. And then we'll go ahead and get the ball joint. Nice. All right, it's the next day. This lower thing kicked my behind last night, but we have a bag of bolts and life goes on. The nut that was on here is this guy. Might just look like your normal flanged nut. However, this is called a prevailing torque nut. It goes around, twists on there, and then it actually has a mechanical infringement, so a piece of metal in there that grips the shaft. However, this one is incredibly tight, so I think it's either damaged or defective or something like that. It is incredibly difficult. So we've got 2 flange nuts here, but you can see that the thread pitch of this one is a little bit different. We've got how many threads? All right, so this video's been kind of weird shooting it. I'm in the middle of a project with my driveway, and you guys are gonna see that in a little bit here. This whole strut arm nut thing that I've been dealing with, it was the wrong one in the first place. It wasn't a prevailing torque nut, it was just the wrong nut. Went online and I bought these, oh geez, and I need them because these should be the right ones. Now, they're about $25 from Ford, you can still get them, but $25 is a sizable chunk of money for a nut. So we're gonna take the wheel off here, and then we'll pull the old nut off of the strut arm, and then we'll put these on. We've got 2 of them for each side, and we'll be able to put this one on and then lock the other one against it, yank it down, and we should be in a good spot.
Now that we've got the wheel off here, I can actually show you what we're battling. This nut that's on here that's holding the strut bar in place is actually the wrong nut. So it's threading on, however, it's way too tight. And even though 450 pounds would keep the wheel on here, we definitely want to replace this in a way that's actually serviceable. So I replaced it with these new nuts, and they'll simply go on in place. They're the right thread pitch, and then I can
Lock it in place with a second nut. You should be good to go. Nice. Nice. Here it is, the SuperCoupe. We're going to take it apart and try and figure out what's going on with this. I'm going to go ahead and start by taking off the filter box, take this intake tube off here, probably be extra careful with it because we don't want to break it. And then we'll take the throttle body off. Then we can start taking the intercooler stuff off, and then we'll lift the supercharger up.
So we've got this off here. Now, one thing that's really interesting is this mass airflow sensor actually bolts into the top of this housing. So you can really be wild with it, but this is a hole, and it shouldn't be there because this measures air, and this is air getting past there. So we got to figure out what that is. There's a tiny hole there. We'll probably just glue it, but yeah, we got to figure out what that's supposed to go to. Anyways, we got this off here, and then we found some other stuff. We have a new air conditioning compressor, which is kind of cool.
Then you've got this line right here, and it twists. Now this has, oh, well, cool, that was about to fall off. Clearly, I've worked on this a few times, but this is our problem right here, if you haven't seen already. So that's no good. If you're new to cars, it shouldn't do that. We'll keep going. We're gonna take the throttle body off here and then all of the intercooler connections so we can disconnect our supercharger. We'll be able to lift it off. It's just a handful of nuts and bolts, but it's kind of surrounded. And
How it feels to hang pictures on a wall, sleep in the same bed at night. I want reasons to stay, I want someone to take up my time and miss me when I go.
got the top hat here off, so we don't have to touch this. I bet you could unscrew that with a, a hammer and a flathead, but I really don't want to mess that up and make it look ugly. This car is actually pretty nice so far. So let's take a look at the inside here. We're looking to see if there's any crazy metal shavings or anything, and the rotors are in pretty good shape. Actually looks really, really, really good. There's oil right here. That's pretty good. So this engine goes through some oil, that's for sure. I bet those guys at that farm, they probably went through this and resealed a bunch of stuff. Thinking like, oh, it's gonna be a cool car and stuff, but oh yeah. Yeah, because none of this makes a lot of sense. The one that's easy to get to is tight. The one that's hard to get to is loose on all of these connections. So I'm betting they were having some weird like boost leak or something.
Climb the trees of Caroline. I felt the city streets of Boston underneath my feet. Heard the sound of subways down the line. Walked the lakesides of Wisconsin and bathed in springs of Idaho. I could use a day or two, or even just an afternoon, getting myself lost in Chicago.
We've got our supercharger snout here. We're gonna see if this is savable at all. Okay, oh, well, there's the connector. So this is the factory connector, I believe. They tend to break, but this is, wow. Look at all the pieces in there.
Whoa,
Look at that.
that smells.
It smells like axle grease. This is like every axle on a good day, honestly. Honestly, it sort of smells like crayons.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of smells like crayons.
Just really intense crayons.
We've got our shaft right here. A bearing goes on here, and we've got a bearing that goes up here. Now, these bearings have to be pressed on, I think, from both sides. The issue that we're facing here is that this bearing right here is just kind of stuck on there. So what we're gonna do is try and yank it off with the bearing puller without damaging the shaft here. Our bearing puller goes on. You can see how this guy is gonna start yanking that off there.
If you notice in the background, the floor is covered in dirt. Well, that's because it's made of dirt. I removed my driveway before I made this video and replaced it while I was shooting this video, so give me a break here. If you like stuff like this, just know that all of my future videos are going to be shot in a driveway that's much, much nicer. So hit the subscribe button, like the video, and if you like shaft play, stay tuned.
Destroyed. Oh boy. All right, there we go. So that's what the bearing surface is supposed to look like right there, right here. This guy, oh brother, a lot of metal in here. This end is fine. This end, however, is pretty well destroyed. Got the snout here. We're actually at Casey's right now. He's working on the brakes for the little Subaru action right here. There's gonna be a video on that probably, so link. Anyways, we got the supercharger snout from the SuperCoupe here. So we've got a little spring. This guy goes in here, and then we've got all of our other parts. Got the snout right here, the internal connector guy right there that goes to this new upgraded acrylic one. The old one's like metal and it breaks super easy. Remember how bad that was? See? Savable at all? Okay, oh, well this is all that was left of the original bearings. Lucky enough, they're like a hardened steel. I think that for the most part, they saved the case and then the shaft. The shaft is certified Craigslist. Bearing goes right here, and then a bearing goes right here, but that is freaking toasted. So I'm hoping the bearing is gonna be able to just slide over this without being too insanely difficult. It's gonna be tough, but I think we'll get away with it. And then there's a seal that goes on right around here. That's gonna be the really tough part, getting that to seal. Two sockets here holding the center of the bearing, and it popped pretty hard, so hard that this guy flew off of there.
After I rebuilt the supercharger snout and Casey finished powder coating those brake calipers, we went ahead and started indulging in some of our wives' favorite pastimes.
These aren't whiskey sour. These are whiskey sour.
Dude, come on.
There's a lot of THs in this one.
Here's girls name.
Girls now. It is time for the supercharger to go onto the engine again. We're gonna drive this bad girl and make some boost today. We're gonna know if it's boosting if the gauge doesn't work, but we'll be able to feel it. Its drivability is garbage without the supercharger, so.
Once you've got the supercharger in place, there's a couple bolts that hold it down. One big one on the front, two small ones on the side. Then you go ahead and start reassembling the throttle body. I had to remove the bolts that hold the throttle cable bracket in place before I put the throttle body on. Now, first and foremost, I am absolutely as much of a redneck as you think that I am. However, this situation does not call for a gasket. It calls for a layer of silicone, but this is the RTV that I had on hand and it'll do just fine.
It's late in the day, but the SuperCoupe is back together. We haven't started it yet because we need that vacuum line. Well, the RTV, it's not like, you know, it's still cream, right? It's room temperature vulcanization cream. It needs to be RTR, it needs to be rubber. But what we're gonna do here is go get that vacuum line. We'll plug that in, put some oil in the supercharger, turn it a couple times, see if it starts, and if everything's good, we're gonna put the belt on the supercharger. See how it goes. Over to there. Take this. There we go. Oh, yeah. Nice, there we go. All right. Then we'll rotate that so it doesn't say washer hose right on the front of it. Okay, so I'm trying to think of how I guess I'm just gonna, here, let me, oh, I'm a retard. Okay, so I'm gonna squeeze it and then it'll suck in while I'm tilting it and not spill, right? Oh, dude, that worked.
Hey,
Do you see that?
That worked.
Good news is you only change this oil every 100,000 miles, so wow, that's the perfect amount.
Why do you change that one out 100,000 miles, but the one on yours is every 1,000 miles?
I don't know. All right, and then I guess. Stop. Oh. There's a leak somewhere over here. I think this is loose. All right, we've got our belt on, we've got our oil in, we've got our vacuum leak fixed, and the battery is charged. I think it's time. All right, let's go. Oh, brother, I'm nervous. All right. All right, turn it off. All right, and then just stay there. I'm gonna disconnect the battery and then we're going for a test drive. Start it up. The stereo's freaking, dude. I also hate the seatbelt. Oh. Did you just spin? Miata won't do that. Are you feeling good about your investment now? She was in a bad mood like 10 minutes ago.
My beans are bruised.
I got my supercharged car. I'm ready to party. My watt 100s.
No.
Yeah, this is a 5-speed, not a 6. Damn, dude, it just lit him up, huh? I mean, it was covered in mud, but like the tire. Oh yeah. Nail it. Were you scared to give it everything?
Yeah. Well, because we're in a neighborhood, you know.
It's fair. Dude, this thing will this'll lay a burnout. I'm positive.
All of a sudden, it just made sense. It made sense why we had passed over the IS300 Turbo and the Focus SVT. We're here the same reason everybody's in their own car, and the simple reason is we just like it. My wife loves this 1993 Ford Thunderbird, and there's something to be said about the soul of a car and where it comes from. We all live in the same world and we all share the same energy. We might as well just understand that we all love things and we all dislike things, and the more we love each other, the less we'll dislike pretty much everything out there. Go outside, work on some cars with your friends. Thanks for watching this episode of Team Rocket Garage.